In this video for Positive Maths, we're going to learn how to use sine, cosine and tan to find missing angles in right angle triangles. First of all, we're just going to recap a little bit on what we know about right angle triangles. So first of all, we need to be able to label the sides. So in relation to A, we have the opposite side. We have the hypotenuse, which is always across from the right angle. And we have the adjacent side, which is just beside the angle. Therefore, the sine of A is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. Cosine of A equals adjacent over hypotenuse. And the tan of A is equal to opposite over adjacent. So in a previous video, we learned how to use sine, cosine and tan in order to find one of the sides that was missing. So we'll use sine if we have to deal with the opposite and hypotenuse. We use cosine if we have to deal with adjacent on hypotenuse. And we use tan if we have to deal with opposite and adjacent. Now we're going to learn how to use these three trigonometric ratios to find the missing angle. So let's look at an example. We want to find the angle A in the triangle shown. The first thing we need to do is to label our sides in relation to the angle A. So we know the side that's a measure of 13 is the hypotenuse, and the side that's a measure of 12 is the adjacent. So if we're dealing with adjacent and hypotenuse, we should remember that we need to use the cosine. So we write down that the cosine of the angle A is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, so that's 12 over 13. The next thing we can do is to find 12 over 13 in decimal form. So that's going to give us 0.9231. So the next step is to find the cosine inverse of that number. So if we're finding cosine A on the left, the next line is going to be A is equal to cosine inverse 0.9231. So let's just discuss this for a moment. So if we have cosine A of a number, let's just say 5, then A is equal to cosine inverse of 5. So we're seeing that on the left, we have cosine of A, and then we bring it over and it changes to cosine inverse. So this is the same as when we have 2x is equal to 5. We know that the next line is x is equal to 5 divided by 2. So on the left, we're multiplying 2 by x, and then on the right, on the next line, we're dividing. So we know that multiplication and division are the opposite to each other. So it's the same thing if we have x plus 2 equals 5. We know the next line is x is equal to 5 minus 2. So again, on the left, we're adding 2. And then on the right, we're subtracting 2. So we know addition and subtraction are the opposites to each other. So it's the same thing now with cosine and cosine inverse. On the right, we have the cosine. And then in order to find A, we need to find the cosine inverse of the number on the right. So it's kind of like the opposite. So if we go back to our question, we have A is now equal to cosine inverse 0.9231. So on our calculator, we have to press the second function or shift cosine to get the cosine inverse, and then put in our number 0.9231, and it will give us A is equal to 25.1294. So the angle A to the nearest degree is 25 degrees. Let's do another example. In this question, we want to find the angle B. First thing, again, that I do is label the sides. So in relation to B, this is the opposite, and 4 is our hypotenuse. So if I'm dealing with opposite and hypotenuse, I know I'm going to be working with sine. So now I fill in the values that I have. So the sine of b is equal to 3 over 4. So the sine of b is 0.75. And then the next line is going to be b equals sine inverse 0.75. So b is equal to 53.9893. Again, to the nearest degree, that's 54 degrees. Another example. Again, the first thing we do is label our sides in relation to the angle. 12 is the opposite side, 10 is the adjacent. So we know that we're going to be using tan because that deals with opposite and adjacent. So we write down the tan of C is equal to 12 over 10. So the tan of C is equal to 1.2. C is equal to tan inverse 1.2. So C is equal to 55.7716. So to our nearest degree, that's 56 degrees. I also want to note that if we have to find C, or like in the previous questions, if we found A and B in this way using trigonometry, then we can always find the other angle that's here. So we want to remember that all three angles of a triangle add up to 180. So if we use trigonometry to find C, then we can say that 90 degrees, so our angle here, plus our angle C, so that's 56 degrees, plus x equals 180 degrees. So 146 plus x equals 180. So x equals 180 minus 146. So x is equal to 34 degrees. For more information, visit PositiveMaths.ie, email us at info@PositiveMaths.ie, or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for watching.